Whenever you go to a new place, do you ever wonder what you should learn as a tourist? If you were to speak with the people, the locals, or anybody that you come across in another country, what should you know? Going through any random structured course going to get you there? What should you focus on whenever you travel to a country and you use the language? In this video, we're going to talk about the areas of a language that you should learn when you go to a foreign country as a tourist. Usually when you go to a country, you should just learn what you need to help maximize your use of time when learning a foreign language to get yourself to that place. Because if you learn too many things that you don't need when you go to a place, then you're not going to be able to talk about the most important areas. Whenever you travel to a foreign country, once you go outside of the tourist areas, chances are you're going to have to speak the national or the local language. Like if you're in Spain and you're in Madrid and you continue to go outside of Madrid or even outside of touristy areas, then it's going to be very difficult to find people who actually speak English, or in another case of another language, it's going to be even more difficult. If you go to another city in Spain, like, Asturias or Oviedo or Bilbao, nobody is going to speak English at all. And you absolutely have to speak Spanish when you're there. First of all, whenever you learn a language before you're going to a place, you need to ask yourself, what am I going to be doing there? This question will help you to discover what you actually need to know. So if you're going to the country and you're just going to be hanging out with friends the whole time, then maybe you should just learn what you're going to encounter when you're with your friends. Like if you stop by a souvenir shop, you might want to ask how much something costs. However, if you're going as a tourist, then you need to nail down the most common conversations first. Obviously, you want to know things like the greetings, the times of the day. You want to be able to introduce yourself, how to say that you were from a place, and also to be able to answer questions. The most likely questions that a native speaker is going to ask you will be stuff like about how you learned the language, and what method did you use, or who taught you, where did you learn, why did you visit this country, what are you doing here, how long are you here for, and a lot of questions like that. And those sets of questions, they'll vary a little bit here and there, but those questions are pretty important, and I get asked those in some capacity or another. Other people like Lao Shu will also encounter these most common questions whenever they travel. It's very important to know these because you can talk about other things, but if you can't answer these basic questions about how you learn the language or why you're visiting a country, then the conversation's not going to go very far. And you also need to be able to state some fact about why you like that language as well. Another important thing you'll need to know is how to order stuff. This is probably by far, outside of like a taxi or checking into a hotel, you probably will need to know how to ask how much something costs. How much is your plate of spaghetti gonna cost? Or how much is your beer gonna cost? Or what is the local beer around here like? What local dishes should I try? What do you recommend? Like things like this are going to be very important because you need to be able to ask how much does something cost, and they're going to give you that amount in the local currency. So you also need to be familiar with the local currency as well, because the local currency that's how you're going to pay for your stuff. Another important thing you should know is how to say phrases like "please speak more slowly" or "I didn't understand, can you repeat that?" These kinds of phrases will help your intelligibility increase in the language so that you can understand what they're saying. You don't want to sit there going, yeah, and just saying yes just so that you appear as if you know more. Don't be afraid to tell the speaker that you don't understand or that you need them to say something else. If somebody reverts to English, then for most tourists, that's a dream because then they don't have to put in the effort. But for some people who actually want to speak the language, you have to keep persisting. And you can actually, you have to be honest and true with yourself. If you say you don't understand and they revert to English and you really want to keep the conversation going, just straight up ask them like, hey, can you please talk to me in X language? I'm trying to practice. Like, can we keep talking in this language? And then just go on and just keep practicing. Another thing you should know is be confident. Being confident in the language is very important. If you go somewhere and you've mastered every single scenario, but you're not confident about your abilities, then when you go to different situations, words are going to be slow coming up in your mind. You're not going to be able to get them out. and you're not going to be able to understand them, and you're going to lock up. And it's going to be like, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? You know, so you have to be calm, and you have to know that your interactions are going to be real and they're going to be relaxing. Just think to yourself, relax. You're in another country. You're on vacation. You learn this language. Languages are fun. Speaking them are fun. Just calm down and just do it 1 second at a time, and then you go on. I will tell you what, like, when I calm down and I relax, I am able to speak and understand the local language much better. Another important thing you'll need to know is how to ask for directions. This might not be the case for a lot of people because, you know, we have Google Maps now or Waze or whatever navigation app you're using, but in some places the GPS is not exact, and the GPS can be off by 10 or 30 feet, or it'll take you to a place like on the map, or maybe a business like relocated somewhere like around the corner, or you're looking for something and it's not exactly what it says in the map. So you need to be able to go up to a local and ask for directions like, hey, you know, how do I get here? Or maybe you just need to know right off the bat where, you know, a local restaurant is, or where a cafe is, or, you know, or a hotel. Like, hey, I just need any hotel around here. Can you tell me what where the closest one's at? You need to be able to understand and ask how many blocks, or turning right or turning left, or go to the light down this street, you know, look for this street, look for this building, this landmark. You know, the different things that help you to get around the city. You will need to know if you are trying to get directions. Another thing that is important, when I was in rural France and Spain, I wasn't in rural Spain. I was in a city that wasn't a common tourist city. I had to speak French and Spanish in those places to check into my hotel, to check out of my hotel. I had to complain, and when I was in Spain, I had to complain about the internet not working. You need to know how to complain about common stuff. So if your internet isn't working, you have, you know, bugs in your room, like, you know, cockroaches or bed bugs. Like, I'm not saying you need to know how to say the word bed bug, but you do definitely need to know how to say cockroach or ants, you know, because if these things happen in your room in a place where they should not be happening, you need to be able to tell the hotel staff that you're seeing bugs in your room, because only they can do something about it or move you to another room. And you also need to be able to say stuff like, I don't have hot water coming out, or is there a vending machine in this hotel, or what is the checkout time? And then whenever you get out, you also need to be able to ask, I need to check out, how do I do that? Can I add a night? I had to do that in France. So you do need to know how to talk to hotel staff, because you can't always depend. Like, I remember I had booked a hotel on booking.com in France, and it said they spoke English there. Got there, asked if they spoke English and French. Nope. No. Nous ne parlons l'anglais. So I had to figure out my own way. Telling time and understanding time is also importantissimo, because everything has time on it. You know, when you go to a train, you need to know what time it is. When you go to a bus station, you need to be able to ask them what time it is. If an establishment closes and you're at a restaurant, you need to know when it closes, because maybe you're at a bar and you're having drinks, but you don't know when they close, then you need to be able to ask, you know, a qué hora cierre? What time does it close? Or what time does this open? What time does the next train come? What time do the buses run? You need to be able to ask all these times, and you also need to be able to read them on the thing as well. So you also should know things, months of the year, you know, a week, a day, nighttime, parts of a day. If you're reading something that says like June 2019, or in Arabic-speaking countries, they might use, you know, the different set of numbers. If the script has special ways of writing numbers, you'll need to know how to write those numbers as well. Because if you don't know what the time is, or you don't know what time something is going to happen, then you can miss trains. You might get angry restaurant staff kicking you out, you know, embarrassing yourself if you don't know how to say the time. Like, even if they know that you only speak English, they're still going to expect you to comply with the rules. You not knowing the local language doesn't excuse anybody from not following the rules of any business establishment. You have to know those things. So knowing how to at least be able to tell the time, or understand when time is given to you in a language, is very important. Another thing that's important is being able to express what you're feeling. And what I mean by this is not like saying, I'm happy or I'm sad, but you need to be able to say that you're sick. Whenever I was in Cape Verde, my stomach literally stopped accepting food. And so I needed medication that would help me to get better, because I was in our country, I don't have insurance, I don't know where any of the doctors are at. And thankfully I knew the local language, so I was able to tell them that I needed something to help with my stomach. So they were able to tell me where's the pharmacy, and I had to ask around town, where is the pharmacy at, and people pointed it out. And I eventually found the pharmacy. It said, hey, I need these 2 medications. And I asked them, something to help with the stomach, and people recommended me these 2 things. And then they knew exactly what they were. They gave them to me, and they said, ask me if I had any questions, and I said I didn't, and I went about my day. Knowing how to do that is good. Knowing how to be able to talk to a doctor and at least be able to tell them what you're feeling is good. I know, studying the parts of the body is probably one of the most boring things about studying the language, but it is also very important, because if you go somewhere and you know everything else, but you can't express, I have a headache, or I've got a migraine, and I'm sensitive to light, how can you expect doctors and pharmacists to help you? So now we're going to talk about things that are not required, but they're more on the optional side. You might need to know stuff about the currency. Like I said earlier in the video, you definitely need to know the currency of a place before you go to that place. That's number 1, as far as I'm concerned, because if you ask for something, they're gonna give it to you in local currency, unless you're in a place like Aruba or Bermuda, where you basically can use US dollars or something, or euros, and they're interchangeable. Once you know those things, before the currency, all these things, then you can start to build on your interests and your hobbies. So you want to be able to talk about art or history or automotive. I had a friend, he studies languages, and then he always makes sure that he could talk about cars, because that's what his favorite topic is. So he knows how to say all the car parts in addition to all the touristy stuff. I like to talk about languages and their mechanics, but I also like to talk about local culture. In history, so I tend to learn a lot of stuff about history and culture and cuisine. So I usually talk about that stuff when I'm with natives. That's what I focus on. And to each his own. One thing you might want to know, optionally speaking, is how to talk about your family. So maybe somebody might ask you, are you married? Do you have children? How many brothers and sisters do you have? Basic family structure. So you could talk about it. My wife and I, we have a son and a daughter, blah, blah, blah. One thing too, which isn't always the case, is politics. I have been bombarded with politics in some countries, especially in Turkey, where some people will have this habit of, they'll be like, Obama, Bush, this president, that president, this politician, that politician, to try to, they want to know what's going on from someone that's from the place. And so, I tend to shrug these things off, because I don't like to talk about politics, even in my own country, so let alone someone else's country. So I tend to just say I don't talk about this, or at least I know the phrase for I don't know much about it, I don't pay attention, or I don't like politics. However, if you're interested in this kind of thing, and some people are, then you should be able to express your preferences for whatever political leader. You should probably know how to talk about policies. Like I said in the beginning, you have to imagine to yourself what you want to know, and you have to imagine yourself, visualize yourself using the local language with people from this place and talk about it. What can I imagine myself doing? Am I going to go horseback riding? Okay, I should probably know stuff for that. Am I going to be talking about politics? Am I going to a political discussion there? Meetup group? Okay, I should probably know political terms and how to talk about my political views, and how to talk about the opposing views, and how to ask them about their system. And you might want to ask somebody about their hobbies, or what they like to do, or what there is to do around there. That's also an optional thing, because that is a more common topic. Once you cut through the chase and you get through all the how did you learn this language, where did you learn it, how much is this thing, and you get through all the common conversation topics. How's the weather? That's not really an important one, unless you can look outside and see for yourself. If you want to continue to talk to someone about their interests and things, then that's a good way to do it, is to learn about how to ask these kinds of questions. And you just have to run through these with yourself and ask and figure out what it is that you find most useful. Because really, languages are about what you find most useful. As a tourist, there are common things that we all will use when we travel, But beyond the basic travel package, you have to ask yourself what you need after that, or what do you want to know. You might want to ask about local customs, or what is allowed, what's not allowed. What do I do? How do I recommend doing? What can I not do? So all these things are what make up what you need to know when you travel abroad to a country, especially one where English is not really known by the general population, or where the general population is not interested, or where the language is just so powerful, that there's no need for the local people to know English, whatever language it is that you speak. If you need to know more, or if you have suggestions about other areas that you think are important as a tourist, I encourage you to share those below, because everybody has different travel needs. Getting all of that into one perspective, into one package, is hard. Just share your experiences and what you use whenever you travel around to somewhere. And please subscribe to the Lang Shack channel. Catch us on IG and Twitter at Lang Shack, and Facebook at Lang Shack as well. And visit our website at langshack.org. Thank you all for watching, and catch you in the next video.